Okay, everybody, here we go. Part 7. I think we might finish this one today. It depends on how long they are. Because I think we got like 4 left. Let me actually... I'll figure that out later. Okay, yeah. Gigantic twist happened last part. So, yeah, let's see how this goes. Hopefully Hannelore does not screw it up. Come on, Hannelore, do something good. The Academy of a year ago. Listen well, Hannelore, Dragoner said as I was overcome with the sensation of a slight descent. Your mind can remain in the past only until Rosemine has finished repairing the thread. Furthermore, I forbid you from doing anything that might obstruct Wentuck's work. Like, what? What does it mean by obstructing Wentuck's work? Like, what would she have to not do? You kind of being vague on this one. The goddess spoke quickly. Perhaps because Libeskelf had acted on a whim, she had a very little time to impart her most crucial warnings. You are also prohibited from sharing any knowledge about the future with the people you meet. Okay, so she is not allowed to tell them, hey, be careful about Ahrensbach because of this happening to Ferdinand, blah, 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 because that could change it. Dragoner continued, let me be clear, if anyone finds you suspicious, I shall consider it a danger and take action. I shall retrieve you at once and erase the memories of those you were involved with. The god's priority was repairing the tapestry that Wentuck had woven. It stood to reason that changing history was strictly forbidden. For you, because Rosemine has got to go back and fix it, thus potentially changing history, maybe depending on what she's got to do. Because we don't know. We don't know what the heck happened because some odd years ago was around the time Ferdinand was, 9, almost 10? Getting ready to enter the Royal Academy, maybe? So what did she have to do what did she have to fix? That's what I want to know. Thankfully for us all, I took no interest in obstructing Lady Rosemine or the gods. I merely wanted another chance to confess to my heart's desire in the hope that we could finally be together. Understood, I said. To begin with, I do not intend to make any major revisions to history. I want only to convey my feelings to Lord Wilfrid. Well? The goddess's voice faded, and with a low clack, I was slotted into a new place and time. I wonder what she was going to say. That's what I'd like to know. Was she surprised that you mentioned Wilfrid? Or was she going to say that, no, it's probably not a good idea? Though, if she thought it wasn't a good idea, she probably would have yanked you out. I don't know. We'll find out. I woke in my room inside the dormitory. Perhaps it was wrong of me, but I could not help but doubt whether the gods had actually succeeded in their work. Their perception of time was a world apart from our own, so they could easily have made some kind of mistake. I sat up and checked my nightwear. These are the same clothes I wore last year. I suppose I really am in the right place at the right point in time. It was so much colder at the Royal Academy than at home that I ordered new nightwear each year. Seeing what I was wearing now, I could say without a shadow of a doubt that I was in the correct year. My next question was how far into the academic term we were. I needed to know whether Lady Rosemine had vanished yet. Eager to find out, I changed my clothes and went straight to the training ground. Oh, are you here to participate, Lady Hannelore? Came a sharp remark from one of the apprentice knights. As the air grew thick with tension, my retainers gathered defensively around me. The apprentices all shot me pointed stares, but why? I was only following my usual routine. My brow furrowed. I set about my training and realized what was going on. Ah, yes, last year I was still... My 4th year at the academy had been plagued with negativity. I had yet to clear my name, so the others of my duchy had ostracized me for bringing about our defeat, only to be turned away by the low-ranking Ehrenfest. Okay, so this was after the bride-stealing dinner match. So someone actually made a comment thinking that's where she was heading, but actually that's not the case. I do wonder what she's going to have. How long does she have? Is what I wonder. Does she have like an hour? Does she have days? Does she have weeks? What? That's what I want to know. We don't know how long she's got in there. She might only have minutes. So she needs to figure this out quick. At once I recalled just how poorly the knights and my brother's retainers had treated me and how much I had wanted to leave home as a result. Time and time again, my duchy had compared me to Lady Rosemine. I had failed to put up a meaningful defense during the Sovereign Knight's attack, allowing Lord Wilfrid to tempt me into submission, whereas she put up a shield to ensure not just her own safety, but that of her peers as well. The more her reputation climbed among our students, the more I was deemed a mess of an Archduke candidate in contrast. My actions during our recent game of bride-stealing dinner had resulted in our defeat, but that alone was not the issue. In fact, if my betrayal had secured me an engagement with Lord Wolfried, I doubted a single person would have spoken out against me. Using my brother as a stepping stone to obtain my love would have made me a masterful tactician. You need to do that now. You need to say, I've thought about it. I've had time to think about it. And I do accept it. That's what you need to do, but I doubt that would be how it would go. Instead, I had taken a step back, reluctant to trouble Air and Vest any more than we already had. Yeah, I mean, considering what they've already put you through, what you guys have already put them through, I can understand that. I had given up on what was rightfully mine, rendering our defeat pointless and inspiring my fellow students to deem me unfit to be an Archduke candidate. To make matters worse, my brother had graduated, leaving me to manage the dormitory on my own. Any trouble I had with the work he had previously overseen only reinforced the burgeoning consensus that I was a letdown. If not for the dinner incident, my brother's retainers would have helped me, but I could not ask them questions as things stood. In its current state, the Dunkelfelder dormitory was a most unpleasant place for me, somewhere I would rather not tarry. As I reached the end of my training, I scanned the grounds and steeled my resolve. This is a race against time. I would confess my feelings to Lord Wolfried and return to the present post-haste, I thought. But a moment later, I was struck with a startling realization. My time here depended on how long it took Lady Rosamund to repair the errant thread. Yeah, how are you supposed to know how long you might have? You didn't get an answer on that. Then again, you were thrust back there so quickly that they probably didn't have time to tell you. Dragon or the gods of time, I called, touching my charm, but I received no response. Even if I completed my mission at once, perhaps I would be stuck here with it until Lady Rosamund's work was done. Prayer can wait, cordial said. Get changed and eat breakfast first, m'lady. Following the advice of my head attendant, I bathed, changed, and then headed to the dining hall of my retainers. There I eyed my would-be suitors who were sitting only a short distance away. Rothric had yet to join the Royal Academy. He tended to make noise with his friends and retainers during meals, so the hall seemed rather serene in his absence. Rosenstruck had greeted me upon our arrival, but now he was focused on his food. Cantrips had glanced up out of curiosity before immediately returning his attention to his plate. It would have been absurd to expect us to be as close as we were in the present, but even so, I found their detachment strange and uncomfortable. Because they haven't been named as your suitors yet. Because I'm assuming this is before... This is at the very earliest, before Rosamund gets sent to the Garden of Beginnings. Or worst, this is after she disappeared, or actually worst, after she came back. No, after she came back would have been after everybody else left, because it would have been, the Royal Academy would have been taken care of for the year. So this is either before she disappeared or after she disappeared. Not before she came back. Or not after she came back, I mean. Was there a reason Cantrips kept meeting my eye? Is something the matter, Cantrips, I asked? He blinked at me in surprise, then approached. It's about the Men Noble dedication ritual. In an instant, I understood what he wanted to say. The applicants must have been decided. Praying made it easier to obtain divine protections, which appealed to students of all statuses. But the process of giving up mana placed a heavy burden on lay nobles and low-grade men nobles. Forcing them to participate could negatively impact their progress in class, so they were allowed to choose whether they were up to the task. The archnobles and archduke candidates of our duchy were not allowed the same autonomy. For us, participation was mandatory. Could you show me the list then, I asked? Instead of sharing the names he had written down, Cantrips gave me a dubious look. Has Lord Lustblot discussed this matter with you? You requested the document without consulting Luitpold. Being from the future, I was unaware that Cantrips had made the list of applicants both this year and last. As a fourth year, however, I should not have known. I remembered asking Luitpold to fetch it for me, his confusion that he had yet to even prepare it, and Cantrips admonishing both of us. Luitpold for lacking the drive of an archducal retainer, and me for not giving my apprentice scholar adequate instructions. How was I meant to keep track of that? Yes, indeed. I consulted my brother. I stammered. Thank you ever so much. I gave Cantrips my best smile and accepted the list from him, worried that I was already drawing unwanted attention to myself. As expected, the names were exactly as I remembered them. Okay, so this is before This has to be before the dedication ritual, because I can't remember who went first. I can't remember if it was the lay nobles that went first, or if it was Rosamund and them that went first in the dedication ritual. Because I know they had separate groups, because obviously the men nobles would get drained completely and possibly die. So they were going to be separate from everybody else, and same for the lay nobles and the everybody else, so... this could be interesting. I wonder how far apart... I can't remember how far apart they were in time. Like, when the first one was held, how much time passed between that and the next one? I can't remember. Loophole, transcribe this and give copies to both Klassenberg and Ehrenfest, I said. Understood. I glanced at Kentrip, doing my best to keep my nerves from showing. He seemed a little perturbed, but quietly went on his way. Perhaps a sign that my attempt to hide the truth had been successful. Back in my room, I let out a sigh of relief. It had terrified me to think I might be caught so soon, but now I understood exactly how far back the gods had sent me. Just a few days prior, the archnobles and archcandidates had taken part in their dedication ritual. So this is when after Rosamund disappeared. Okay. Cordula, father instructed that I stay ahead of Klassenberg with those dedication rituals. Did he not? I asked. I wish to hold a tea party with Ehrenfest before they do. I would wait for Lady Rosamund to recover. As she is currently unwell, we have no need to approach Ehrenfest outside of the ritual themselves. She need not attend, I pressed on. My head attendant had shot me down, her eyes cold, but I would not give up without a fight. I need time to speak with Lord Wilfrid. Father insisted that this is a matter of the utmost importance, so let us learn from the other Ehrenfest students instead. Lady Rosamund received an invitation to the Archduke Conference just as you did, confirming her significance in the eyes of the royal family. You will find her a most important ally, especially in these trying times. Cordula was greatly appreciative of Lady Rosamund. By putting my name forward, my dear friend had given me the opportunity to assist the royal family during the Archduke Conference. Their praise had done wonders for my image among Dunkelfelger's higher echelons, if not among my brother's retinue in the Apprentice Knights. Indeed, Lady Hannelore, you have much to gain from your relationship with Lady Rosamund, Andrea interjected. Lord Wilfrid spurned you despite agreeing to the terms of bride-stealing dinner. He is to blame for the damage done to your reputation and the harsh treatment you are forced to endure. Hylise nodded in agreement as she and Andrea finished preparing for their classes. I cannot believe he speaks to you as if nothing happened. I suspect even Verbergen would show more discernment were Entrenduge to castigate him so. Verbergen, the god of concealment, had an unsavory habit of pursuing multiple women, each unaware of the others. Oh, he's a serial cheater! Ah! Okay, so the guys are kind of have human characteristics, sort of. Or maybe we have that from them, I don't know. It had earned him a harsh rebuke from Entrenduge, but not even that had put a stop to his womanizing. The incident had come to be regarded as an allegory for shamelessness. To be perfectly clear, that boy does not deserve you, milady. I ask that you avoid him at all costs, lest any more unnecessary rumors start to spread. Cordula, I knew that participating in true dinner eased tensions between our duchies, but I had forgotten just how bad things were. Sorry. My retainer's fury toward Lord Wilfrid was intense, to say the least. They were angry because they cared about me, but still. How am I to navigate this? Asking them to help me confess was out of the question. They would inquire as to why I gave up on the engagement during the Interduchy tournament. Had the gods sent me back further, I would have fought to keep that deal on the table, but only because of the changes that had come about in the seasons since. Had I not heard about the chance of my half-sister Lungtae's marrying into Ehrenfest, I might never have acknowledged my feelings for Lord Wilfrid. On that note, something occurred to me. Would it not have made more sense to ask to be sent back 2 years to before the Interduchy tournament and our bride-stealing dinner match? I thought for a moment and shook my head. At the time, Lord Wilfrid was still engaged to Lady Rosamund, and he demonstrated admirable strength of character by continuing to play that role until the royal family formally announced their separation. He would doubtless have rejected me, not that I was fool enough to propose to an engaged man. It is time for class, milady. Oh, what can I do to have a private conversation with Lord Wilfrid? Good question. Upon descending the dormitory stairs and making my way to the exit, I saw the students gathered in preparation to leave. I scanned the crowd for someone to speak to and locked eyes with Kentrip, but he looked away before I could even start to approach him. It made no sense to take it personally. He had yet to become my suitor, and treating him as one would have been entirely inappropriate. Yet I could not ignore the sudden ache in my chest. Perhaps I was relying on him even more than I realized? Cantrips had been my one and only ally in my mission to confess to Lord Wolfried. Losing his support meant I would need to forge ahead alone. Yes, I was surrounded by retainers, but nothing about their intense atmosphere put me at ease. Only then did it occur to me how accustomed I had become to having Cantrips and Rosentark escort me to class. Do I have what it takes to manage without Cantrips' help? I would need to make contact with Lord Wolfried and convey my feelings on my own. Given that Cordial and the others were vehemently against me associating with anyone from Ehrenfest other than Lady Rosewine, I would surely need to mimic Lord Ortwin and approach my target during class. Yeah, you're gonna have to wait till the Archduke, the class you go to for the Archduke candidates. Because then you might have a chance. Now, what was the excuse given for Lady Rosewine's absence? As I recall, she was unwell for so long that she had to return to her home duchy halfway through the academic term. In truth, she had been swept away by the gods themselves. Not that I would ever have suspected as much. I recalled Cordial and the others permitting me to hold tea parties with Lady Charlotte after Ehrenfest made their announcement, but I could not risk waiting that long. I was still entirely unsure how long it would take Lady Rosemine to attend to the severed thread. I mean, that's what I'm saying. We don't know how long she has. She might have the rest of the day. She might have a day. She might have a week. She might have more than that. We don't know. It might be a bother to make my move during our lesson, so perhaps I should ask Lord Wolfried to stay behind for a moment when we finish. I mean, like you said, it's only for Archduke candidates, so it would just be you without your retainers, so this would be your best option. I wandered into my classroom, still deep in thought. Good morning, Lady Hannelore. Indeed, good morning. Good morning, Lord Ortwin, Lord Wolfried. I had not expected anyone to speak to me, so I was caught unaware by the two boys' greetings. I returned the gesture, then looked at Lord Ortwin. Despite his zealous confession in the present, nothing about his current demeanor gave me reason to believe he had an interest in me. Perhaps that spoke to his talent as an Archduke candidate? Maybe. I mean, like I said, we didn't even know he had any kind of interest in marrying Hannelore until this book. Then again, like I said, we hadn't had a whole lot of interactions between Hannelore or even Lord Ortwin in the books. It's just been Rosemine and everybody else that we don't have a whole lot of, thoughts on it. I was just asking Wolfried about Lady Rosewine's health, he said. It seems she shows no signs of recovering. Unfortunately not, Lord Wolfried supplied, evidently troubled. She was already working hard to finish her classes, intent on returning home as soon as she could, when she had to take part in the dedication ritual on her only day of rest. Her attendants expected her to be bedridden for quite some time. Exhaustion must have gotten the better of her. A year ago, I had assumed that Lord Wolfried wavered out of concern for Lady Rosemine. Now that I know the truth, I can analyze his response more carefully. He is feigning concern. I know that just by looking at him. I was unsure how to explain it, but I could tell when he was truly anxious just by the nuances of his expression. He was uncomfortable at most, maybe because he was having to deceive us. That I could identify these subtle hints that escaped even Lord Ortwin spoke to just how closely I observed him. Lord Wolfried, I said. Yes, Lady Hannelore, he asked with a smile. As he gazed upon me, I saw not a trace of adoration in his dark green eyes. He must have considered the bride-stealing dinner incident well and truly over, as I saw no guilt or conflict in them either. It was very unlikely that Lord Wolfried knew how I was being treated in Dunkelfelder. I had purposely not told Ehrenfest, reluctant to trouble them further, so I was almost proud to see the lack of shame in his expression. Part of me wished to preserve that innocence, but more than that, I wished to see his eyes widen with the same disbelief as when I had confessed to him before. There is something important we must discuss, I explained. May I have a moment of your time after class? After class? Indeed, only a moment, I assure you. Lord Wolfried nodded, evidently unaware of my intention. Of course he's unaware! He's not going to think this is what you're going to do. He's probably going to think you're something about classes or, I don't know. The first step of my mission complete. I felt the corners of my mouth rise as I moved to my desk. Everyone, let us begin class, Professor Eglinton called. Who would believe that a year from now, Lady Rosemine would hand her the Gruterscheid and facilitate her becoming the next Zent? I was delighted to be a student of someone who would go on to rule all of Jürgenschmidt. As per our teacher's instructions, we each prepared our respective box garden. Lady Rosemine had turned her face stone into gold dust and drawn a magic circle with remarkable speed in her first week class, but such raw talent was thoroughly abnormal. Nobody else in our class would even come close to matching her. The slower students had yet to even finish supplying their boxes with mana. I had channeled mana into a face stone with one hand, trying to reduce it to gold dust, while drawing a magic circle with the other. It was exhausting. I would need time to drink mana-focused rejuvenation potions and recover. As I waited for my mana to return to me, I gradually continued to add to the magic circle. It was creation magic, accessible only to Archduke candidates. Lady Rosemont had drawn the entire circle at once, but a normal Archduke candidate would not have the mana or focus to recreate such a complex pattern with so many sigils in one go. I might not be as fast as Lady Rosemont, but I am making quick progress by regular standards. I glanced at the empty spot beside mine and sighed. How was Lady Rosemont doing? Was she succeeding in her mission? She really must be special for the gods to have gone to her directly. Perhaps she will finish in the blink of an eye, as with her classes. The amount of time I could spend in the past depended on Lady Rosemont. I needed to confess to Lord Wolfried as quickly as I could, as soon as class is over. I squeezed my stat-made pen, marring one of my sigils with an imperfect line. My nerves were getting the better of me, it seemed. I could already imagine how my confession would go. Lord Wolfried would stare at me with wide eyes as he had done before, then look around in embarrassment. He would repeat that he appreciated my feelings and that he yearned for a fiancé such as I. But the parallels would end there. This time he would surely declare... Oh boy, I wonder if this is actually going to go how she wants it. We'll find out. Ehrenfest has granted me 1 year to decide my future. I shall devote my absolute all to becoming the next Archduke. I don't know if that's what's going to happen, girl. You want him to be the Archduke, but that might not be what he wants. He might not have wanted to be the Archduke, especially with all the pressure from the Lies gangs being boring down his neck. And yeah, this could be interesting. Again, my hand strayed, introducing an error to another of my sigils. I gazed down at the misshapen circle inside. I was not in the right frame of mind for such sensitive work. I shall put this aside and make gold dust for now. Resolved to focus my attention elsewhere, I submerged the page I was using into a solution designed to remove mana ink. The magic circle I had drawn melted away, leaving only a pure white sheet. Fourth bell rang and students started exiting the classroom. I was packing away my things, attempting to look busy as I waited for everyone to leave, when I noticed Lord Ortwin turn toward me. Our eyes met, and then he departed as well. Lady Hannelore, Lord Wolfried, if you have gathered your belongings together, then kindly take your leave. Professor Eglantine, I muttered, there is something I must discuss with Lord Wolfried, if you would allow us just a moment. Professor Anastasius, even now the thought of a former prince becoming a teacher seemed strange to me, had overlooked my conversation with Lord Ortwin and that had taken place during class. Professor Eglantine had no reason to refuse me, I thought, but that's not probably how she does things, though. But a troubled frown came over her face. Her bright orange eyes moved from me to Lord Wolfried and back again. Forgive me, Lady Hannelore, but I cannot grant you my sanction, she said quietly, one hand resting on her cheek. During our days at the Royal Academy, Prince Anastasius would approach me before, during, and after class. I was but an Archduke candidate at the time, whereas he was royalty, so there was nothing I could do to refuse him. Professor Anastasius had permitted Lord Ortwin to speak with me during class because he, too, had used that time for courtship. Professor Eglantine had experienced the opposite end of those exchanges, so she refused to enable such antics in her classroom. If you must speak here, then I shall observe to ensure you do not use your authority as an Archduke candidate of a greater duchy to pressure Ehrenfest into submission. Professor Eglantine continued, if you take issue with that, then leave my classroom at once. You would do better to arrange a meeting through the proper channels. I don't have time! It must not help that Klassenberg strives to keep my duchy away from Ehrenfest. I was taken aback by the unexpected turn of events. Professor Eglantine had a good reason for her terms, but that did not make them any less troublesome. I would never have expected nor wanted to confess under such close supervision. Unaware of my mental anguish, Lord Wolfried accepted Professor Eglantine's proposal with a smile. You may watch us if you wish. I do not believe Lady Hannelore will make such demands of Ehrenfest. I don't know. Is that what they would consider that? I don't know. Oh, good lord. I appreciate it, she said, then stared at me intently. Are your thoughts the same, Lady Hannelore? For a moment, I wondered whether I should just give up on proposing, but leaving empty-handed was not an option. Turning down Professor Eglantine would give the impression that I had wanted to make an unreasonable demand, And there was zero chance of my neurotic retainers letting me speak with Lord Wilfrid under any other circumstances. Before, I proposed with cantrips and Lord Ortwin watching. This is nothing in comparison. You're still gonna do the same thing? Are you gonna do the same thing you did before, or are you just gonna ask him? Oh, boy. Indeed, confessing in front of Professor Eglinton would weigh on me far less than doing so in front of two people who had declared their feelings for me. I placed a hand on my chest, took several deep breaths, and measured the distance between Lord Wilfrid and me. Is he too far away? No, not when his guard is entirely down. Professor Eglinton seems wary, but from where she is now, she stands no chance of stopping me. We'll see about that. God. I shall pin my target down faster than she can even attempt to interfere. I mean, all you have to do is walk over, acting like you're going to talk to him, and then try to pin him down. Don't just rush at him, because that'll get her on her guard. Very well, I said with a nod. Observe us if you wish. Professor Eglinton's features relaxed into a smile, and she turned her attention to Lord Wilfrid. It was an invaluable opening I could not overlook. I closed in on my mark and swept his legs out from under. What? Lady Hannelore? Oh, right. Lord Wilfrid does not know how we of Dunkelfelder propose. Oh, no, not this again. Tell him you want to be his goddess of light. That should get his attention. Because, everybody uses the goddess of light and god of darkness when it comes to proposing. Everybody. Last time Lord Ortwin and Kedrick had brought him up to speed, it fell to me to explain things in their absence. I seized my target by his shirt to stop his descent, lowered him slowly to the floor to prevent him from hitting his head, and then pinned him down in the least painful manner I could. His dark green eyes showed nothing but shock. Of course! Like you said, he doesn't know, and obviously he didn't know in the present, so he's not going to know now. This is how a woman of Dunkelfelder proposes when acting against her father's wishes, I said, keeping Lord Wilfrid perfectly still. Give me tasks to complete so that we may be wed. He merely stared at me confused. Of course. Another quiet, what? Was the most he managed in response. Was my explanation not clear enough, I asked, trying to follow Cantrip's and Lord Ortwin's example. Here we go. Professor Eglinton stared down at us, unease seeping through her outward calm. Lady Hannelore, few outside your duchy will respond to such terms, and even fewer will appreciate your manner of proposal. You would do well to keep in mind that Dunkelfelder's customs are not the norm. Well, no, duh! Of course it's not the norm. It's the norm in Dunkelfelder, but not probably everywhere else. Is that so? I muttered. How did the women of other duchies propose, then? Neither Cantrips nor Lord Ortwin had elaborated on the matter. If other women did not pin their men down, it was crucial that I find out what they did instead. They expressed their interest with gifts and pleasant remarks, then have their desired partner propose for them, Professor Eglinton said, a distant look in her eyes. Proposing is a man's job. Rarely do women take matters into their own hands. I don't have time! Well, then she can't say that, because then she'll ask, why do you not have time? And then you can't say why. I thought there might be other less forceful ways for women to make the first move, but no. Ours was the only duchy where women proposed at all. Goodness, I was none the wiser. What the fuck? Smack my forehead. Pinning a man down, requesting a chance to prove one's worth, and then completing whatever task he set to earn his hand in marriage seemed perfectly acceptable to me. It was a test of one's resolve and spirit, and a poignant one at that. Perhaps it would be wise to spread our custom to the women of other duchies as well. Release him if you would. Professor Eglinton said with a sigh. I rose to my feet, and the subject of my confession slowly did the same. He took a small step back as if to put some distance between us. Not to sound rude, but, do you really wish to propose to me? Lord Wilfrid asked, now more suspicious than surprised. I thought last year's dinner match was behind us. Yes. I want to be with you, I declared. I want you to want it as well. Almost got myself tongue-tied there. But yeah, she wants him to actually want to marry her. I had thought Lord Wilfrid would appreciate, but this is, like you said, this is a year in the past. Things had not happened in the past at this point. Now, if things had changed and, Rosamund had already gone and saved Ferdinand, and you had mentioned this later on, then maybe, just maybe, he might really appreciate it. I don't know. Instead, he looked openly annoyed by it. Only a day had passed since he had laid his heart bare to me, at least from my perspective. Yet his reaction to my emotions could not have been more different. How could this be? Lord Wolfried already has a fiancé, and one who is bedridden at that, Professor Eggleston noted. Is it not obvious why such a proposal would trouble him? I mean, they did mention that in the bride-stealing dinner that Lord Wolfried will become would have her as his second wife. So, it's not like this is the realm of possibility that they are monogamous, you know? Like Sylvester and Florencia were. But then again, that changed. But still, having more than one wife is normal, so they act like him just having one fiancé is normal. A calmness came over Lord Wolfried, who merely nodded in response. Because I was from the future, I knew that his engagement had secretly been cancelled. But how could fourth-year Hannelore have gathered that? I need some manner of excuse. It took me a moment of contemplation, but I remember my time spent with Lady Rosemine and those fated to be former royalty. Perhaps, but is his engagement to Lady Rosemine not soon to be terminated? I was with her and the royal family during the Archduke conference. Of course I noticed a change in their relationship. Lady Eggleston and Lord Wolfried were struck speechless. I had composed an excellent rebuttal without openly exposing my knowledge of the future. If our engagement must wait for that news to be revealed, then so be it, I said. Lord Wolfried, I will spare no effort in helping you become the next Ob. Lord Wolfried stared at me incredulous, his face as pale as it could get. There was no warmth in his eyes. Instead, he positively radiated outrage as he clenched a trembling fist in front of his chest. Uh-oh. Girl, I think you screwed up. Guys, I want insight into all this. What are your thoughts on all this? Hannelore, what did you do? Did Rosemine tell you to do this, he asked. No. Oh, wait, this is before the engagement. This is before he got pissed off and demanded his engagement be canceled because he couldn't stand being engaged to Rosemine. This is before that, so he's still pissed off at this whole thing involving Rosemine and him being engaged. Lady Rosemine played no role in this, I said at once, and my head cocked to one side. I could not even begin to imagine what I might have done to deserve such a hostile response. I spoke with her, and she said only that she could not divulge private duchy matters. Lord Wolfried took a deep breath as if attempting to regain some semblance of composure, then shook his head. Forget it. I apologize, Lady Hannelore, but the status of my engagement is irrelevant. Here we go. I refuse to accept your confession. Excuse me? A stinging chill overcame me as though I were encased in ice. I had not anticipated a rejection, let alone one so intense. My breathing hastened, a shrill ringing echoed in my ears, and an uncomfortable pressure gripped my chest. Even then, Lord Wolfried regarded me with nothing but anger. I could never accept becoming the Ob through your or Dunkelfelger's power, he said. For the sake of both our duchies, I shall pretend this conversation never happened. Girl, you thought wrong on this situation. I don't know what the heck you're going to be able to do, how this is going to even change anything. Because surely this is going to have some kind of, effect on the future. Oh, good lord, what did you do? How did you mess this up? The severity of his refusal was beyond my comprehension. Back in the present, had he not said he would have accepted my confession if I had approached him 1 year sooner? If that is all, then I must go, Lord Wolfried said, with a hard glare, then turned on his heel as if declaring that he cared not what else I might have to say. I could only watch the days as he marched out of the classroom, awkward cape swaying in his wake. Soon enough, I was alone with Professor Eggleston. Lady Hannelore, she called, her voice more tender and considerate than mere moments ago. Oh, boy. I turned to her with a vacant expression, and she heaved a sigh before giving me a kind, reassuring smile. If you predicted that Lord Wolfried and Lady Rosemine's engagement was going to be nullified, should you not have waited until it actually happened? She doesn't have time. She might not have the time to wait. Because she doesn't know when Rosamund's going to get back. She doesn't know what she's going to have to do in the past to fix whatever she's got to fix. And that might take hours. That might take days. We don't know. We didn't get a time frame, so she's acting as though time is of the essence. Given the circumstances, I doubt you could have picked a worse time to make your move. So my timing was the issue. It failed me once again. Questions ran through my mind. I might not have been able to answer them, but one thing was perfectly clear to me. As poor as my timing might have been, I had no choice. This was my only opportunity. I had believed what Lord Wolfrid had said, that he would have fought for my love if only I had proposed sooner, and had traveled back in time with the aid of the gods themselves to be with him. My stay could last only as long as Lady Rosamund took to reconnect a single thread, and without my retainer's assistance, I was restricted to speaking with Lord Wolfrid before and after class. Forgive me, Professor Eglantine. I caused you unnecessary trouble. I shall take my leave as well. I returned to the Dunkelfelder dormitory, ate lunch, and then retreated to my hidden room. How could I attend classes when my mind was still reeling from shock? There was far too much to reflect on. Where did I go wrong? Good question. Guys, in the comments, I want to hear what y'all have to say. But then again, like I said, the most likely reason that he didn't accept it, even though he said he would have in the past, is because certain events had not happened yet. Essentially. Lord Wolfrid had assured me that he would have accepted my confession, but he had done nothing of the sort. Was he merely being considerate when he told me that? That could be a possibility. The first time I conveyed my feelings, Lord Wolfrid smiled at me, a faint blush coloring his cheeks. I could not bear to think it had simply been an act. But what other conclusion could I draw when he had rejected me? He said that he would have put his all into becoming an archduke, but even at this juncture, he clearly has no desire to rise to power. Like I said, he's probably still pissed off at the whole Rosamund situation. Now, once that thing is cancelled, then maybe he might be feeling different about your proposal. On that note, I recalled something that Lady Rosamund had said to me, that Lord Wolfrid had been so desperate to avoid the archducal seat that he had actively sought to end their engagement. I should have remembered it sooner, but the promise of marriage had clouded my mind. Perhaps only the tumultuous years since and the many changes that had come with it had encouraged him to take a more favorable stance on becoming a nob. In which case, his response in the classroom makes perfect sense. As the final pieces fell into place, I could only not help but let out an exhausted sigh. My coming here had served no purpose. In fact, I might even have made things worse. What was I thinking? I rushed into action, taking no heed of the hints Lord Wolfrid and Lady Rosamund gave me. I was stuck in an unwinnable situation. Here in the past, Lord Wolfrid had yet to experience the year that would reshape his thoughts about becoming an archduke and make him more open to marrying me. But in the present, when he had undergone that growth, circumstances prevented us from being together. In other words, I never stood a chance of changing things for the better. I suppose it would be nice if in the future he looks positively on my decision to confess. Not that I think he will with how intensely he shot me down. Like I said, maybe once all that stuff happens, maybe he'll think back on your confession and realize that he did, want you to be with him. Maybe he'll take action then. Maybe that's how it will work. I doubt it, but Hannelore does deserve to have a happy ending. I sighed again. The most I could do now was keep a low profile and hopes that my confession at least remained in his memories. My thoughts organized, I went on to my afternoon classes with a slightly calmer head on my shoulders. Lord Wolfrid is going to such great lengths to avoid me that even greeting him was out of the question. I gave up on approaching him and went straight to my desk. Lady Hannelore, is everything okay between you and Wilfrid? Lord Owen asked. He had been eyeing me since I arrived, having no doubt noticed the change in our demeanor compared to that morning. The fact that he was questioning me meant that Lord Wolfrid truly had resolved not to mention my confession. I glanced over at Lord Wolfrid. He was looking right at me, but averted his gaze the moment our eyes met. If you must pretend that nothing happened, at least do a better job of acting natural. Was everyone already suspicious of the truth? Or was the onus simply on me to come up with a reasonable excuse? As I contemplated what to do, I started to wonder whether Lord Wolfrid and I had very different ideas of what it meant to pretend something had not happened. The already vast chasms between our duchies seemed to widen, and the thought of marrying into Ehrenfest started to worry me. Would my days be spent attempting to decipher foreign culture, all while trying not to anger Lord Wolfrid further? What response would suit his wishes best? I sighed, aware that our classmates were especially curious to know what was going on, and returned my focus to Lord Ortwin, who was awaiting my answer. Under no circumstances was I going to admit that I had proposed and then been rejected. This reminds me, Lord Ortwin's situation changes quite a bit between now and the present, does it not? His older sister, Lady Adolphine, would end up divorcing Lord Sigiswald. Lord Ortwin would then strive to become an aunt to best be able to protect her. I wish to ask a question of my own, I said. Lord Ortwin, do you seek to become your duchy's next Archduke? Well, securing the role proves what one is capable of, does it not? In that regard, I suppose I seek it as much as any Archduke candidate would. Seeing the look on his face, I wondered whether he had understood my meaning. I saw none of the fervor from our future meeting in his light brown eyes, nor his intense desire to obtain status for Lady Adolphine's sake, because all this other stuff hasn't happened yet. Maybe if you had asked this question after all that had taken place, then maybe you might get a different answer. It's the fact that none of these events that changes everything has happened yet. You should have asked if you could go back in time. You should have gone back in time 2 years, yeah, because then you could have stopped the whole bride stealing dinner thing, or at least changed it a little bit to where you would have agreed to the marriage. It amazed me how much one can change over the span of a single year. Forgive me, Lady Hannelore, but I must ask again, what happened between you and Wilfrid? He stubbornly refuses to tell me, and, well, of course, nothing that would be of any value to Dronkel. As our afternoon classes came to an end, I prayed that Lady Rosebud would conclude her business post-haste. The next time I saw Lord Wilfrid, his behavior remained the same. His expression changed the moment our eyes met, and he went out of his way to avoid greeting me. He was being so painfully overt that we faced even more curious onlookers than the day before. Dude, if you're gonna act like nothing happened, don't avoid the person that you're trying to act like that with. Acting like nothing happened means acting like you normally do around the person, not actively avoiding them, because that gets more suspicious. I would need to chastise him for his impertinence. It was unacceptable to treat a top-ranking Archduke candidate with such blatant disrespect. Overlooking his frosty demeanor would cause others to assume that my duchy had done something to gravely insult his. If the other Archduke candidates of our class took word of the unusual atmosphere between Lord Wilfrid and me back to their dormitories, their peers and supervisors would start looking into the cause. From there, it would only be a matter of time, no matter how much I tried to hide it. Those of the Dunkelfelder dormitory would inevitably find out that something had prompted Lord Wilfrid to treat me with contempt. And when the news reaches Cordula, oh boy. Many from Dunkelfelder still took issue with my decision to defend Ehrenfest after our bride-stealing dinner match. They would gleefully transform what was currently a problem between two students into an interduchy incident, causing trouble for more than just Lord Wilfrid. Ehrenfest as a whole would be drawn to the fray, and all my time spent declaring their innocence would ultimately have been for nothing. At the same time, criticizing Lord Wilfrid for his attitude seemed rather shameless, considering I was to blame for proposing to him in the first place. I was unsure how I would even secure an opportunity to speak with him. He was going to such great lengths to avoid me that even greeting him was currently beyond me. What are my options? An ordinance was out of the question. It would announce my message to everyone in earshot, and any written correspondence would need to go through his scholars in attendance. So unfortunate was the situation that my best choice seemed to be to summon him with my authority as an Archduke candidate of a greater duchy and force him to use a sound blocker so I could chastise him in private. But that's going to make it worse. The problem was that using my authority in such a manner would be ruinous to our relationship. Lord Wilfrid would never forgive me for it, but I couldn't think of no way to point out the issue without respecting his desire to pretend I had never proposed in the first place. Lady Hannelore, Lord Wilfrid, could you stay behind for a moment? Professor Eggleston's class came to an end. I must inquire about the dedication ritual this weekend. Huh? What's she doing? Surely that's not what it is. Surely that could be done in a different way. Could it? I gazed up at her in surprise, and our eyes met. She was watching me as one might a hapless infant. If asking about the dedication ritual were truly her intention, then she would not have found it necessary to ask me to stay behind. This was merely an excuse to give Lord Wolfried and me a chance to settle that which had come between us. Thank you! At least you got that to be able to, without having to use your authority. Thank God. I appreciated her concern, and there was nary a doubt in my mind about what I needed to say, but having to scold somebody I cared about put me in miserable spirits. He will surely think even less of me. Maybe you need to put it in a way that maybe would open his eyes a bit on this. I don't know. I wouldn't even know what the heck you would need to say. Did the other students believe Professor Egletine's excuse? They kept glancing in our direction, but slowly took their leave nonetheless. What do you want to know? Lord Wolfried asked, openly frustrated that the three of us were alone again. Even now, he was staying a fair distance away from me, refusing to even look my way. Well, I mean, of course, he's afraid you're going to do it again. To emphasize how little he wished to speak with me, it was hurtful to say the least. Oh my, Professor Egglentine said, widening her eyes for emphasis. Do you really not understand why I asked you here? Lord Wolfried averted his gaze, his lips pursed. You wish to speak about yesterday's incident, not the dedication ritual. I understand that much. At least you understand it. I was worried you were going to be an idiot. This time, Professor Egglentine showed genuine surprise. Although yesterday's incident is relevant, it is your reckless behavior that requires me to speak with you. Do you truly not grasp what is happening? Lord Wolfried managed only a stunned, what? In response. He was entirely unaware of the danger his attitude presented. Professor Egglentine gave a troubled smile, then looked at me. Do you understand, Lady Hannelore? Yes, she knows what's going on. She was going to freaking chastise him over it. I nodded, sensing what must have been an intense glare from Lord Wolfried. Given the recency of the incident, I could not help but lower my voice as I anxiously ventured, You wish to give me the opportunity to admonish Lord Wolfried. Indeed, she said, then turned to face him. By all rights, this duty should fall to your retainers, not your professor. But the source of your strife occurred in this classroom and must be kept here. As those at your service know too little of the situation to take you to task, Lord Wolfried, I find that my hands are tied. She took a moment to exhale, then gazed at him with kind eyes. Lady Hannelore's proposal yesterday was extremely short-sighted. It was a shocking display, seldom seen outside of Dunkelfelder. If you are uncertain how to interact with her, I completely understand. Lord Wolfried nodded, and the stern look on his face began to fade. He seemed relieved to have found a voice of sympathy, and somewhat bashful that it had come from someone he so deeply admired. However, Professor Egglentine continued, I cannot ignore you snubbing a top-ranking duchy in my classroom. Obeying the duchy rankings, separating one's public and private lives, and remaining in control of one's emotions are fundamental rules that any noble must follow. It should have been my duty to admonish Lord Wolfried, but Professor Egglentine was doing it for me. She probably figured that maybe if he heard it from her, he might actually listen. She must have been acting out of consideration for Ehrenfest and the guilt that had eaten away at me ever since my confession. Had the burden of chastising him rested with me, I would only have inspired even greater resistance, and even the tiniest error in my speech might have devolved into an interduchy concern. Yesterday's events were personal without a doubt, Professor Egglentine said. I was prepared to stop Lady Hannelore if she used the authority of a greater duchy to bludgeon you into submission. But her actions took me entirely by surprise. I certainly did not expect her to propose so abruptly, and in my classroom no less. But she gave you the freedom to refuse her, and when you resolved to pretend that she never confessed to you in the first place, she was fully sympathetic, was she not? As well as sympathizing with Lord Wolfried, Professor Egglentine was insisting that not all of my choices deserved to be criticized. My actions had backfired in so many ways that her mediation skills positively dazzled me. In short, it was your decision to act as though nothing happened, refusing to greet an archduke candidate from a top-ranking duchy without a clear cause, then treating her with open contempt risks creating discord between your duchies. Ob Ehrenfest would be stunned speechless if he heard of your behavior here. It is wholly unbefitting of someone who has passed their first-year court etiquette classes. Ooh, get him, Egglentine! Lord Wolfried paled at the insinuation that he was inferior to a new student. Still, instead of rushing to apologize to me, he stayed rooted to the spot and started gnashing his teeth in frustration. Even now that he knew his behavior was inappropriate, he seemed completely uncertain of what to do next. Was he always this immature? Girl! If you had been paying attention to him, you probably would have noticed that sooner. I mean, to be fair, he's probably still acting like this like when he was a frickin' kid when he was baptized. Wasn't he acting like this too? Let me know. In my mind, Lord Wolfried had seemed a remarkable partner. He had passed his first year court etiquette class in a single day and consistently excelled as an honor student. Not to mention the kindness and consideration with which he treated his fiancée. The boy before me now could not have been further from that ideal. He comes across as someone else entirely. Was the person I fell in love with but an illusion born from my own misconceptions? More than likely, yes! Girl, you might want to take up Ortwin's offer. That's all I gotta say. He'd probably be the better choice. He'd actually treat you better. That goes for you too as well, Lady Hannelore. Indeed, my sincerest apologies. I shot bolt upright as I returned to my senses. My mind wandered so frequently during Mother's lectures that it was almost second nature. Professor Eglinton's orange eyes were trained on me. I can understand not wanting to admonish Lord Wolfried as you were to blame for his change in behavior, she continued. And as he was going to such lengths to avoid you, there was little you could do but use your authority as a higher-ranking duchy to summon him, which is what she didn't want to do, but she would have had no choice in the matter. She was being wonderfully considerate, I thought, and that tone she took was perfectly kind. The scathing sharpness that followed took me entirely by surprise. Yet you attempted not even that. Turning a blind eye to his behavior today was benevolent in the worst sense of the word. Had you been in the presence of your Dunkelfelderian peers, they would have surely felt their duchy was being scorned by someone of a lower rank. A line must be drawn somewhere, Lady Hannelore. Half-hearted sympathy benefits no one. I'm glad we resolved the matter before it could escalate into an interduchy conflict, I said, well and truly relieved. I thank you ever so much, Professor Eglantine. She smiled, the look of praise in her eyes. Conflict is not to my taste either. Furthermore, I wish to keep any further danger from befalling Ehrenfest in its current state. It pleases me greatly that relations between your duchies have not deteriorated. Now, Lord Wolfried, your apology. Despite the warmth of her expression, it seemed our professor had no intention of acting completely benevolent. Lord Wolfried appeared not to have fully understood what Professor Eglantine and I were saying. Of course he doesn't. Girl, like I said, you're probably better off going with Ortwin or Kentrips, in my opinion. Because Ortwin would have treated you better. You would have gotten out of the duchy. And, yeah, I think he would have treated you a heck of a lot better, to be honest. With the way Wolfried's acting. Heck, if the right things are going, Wolfried might not even be able to get married because he won't be able to find someone he actually enjoys being around. Or who wants to be around him, I had to be honest. But he took a deep breath, and all traces of emotion faded quickly from his face. Only once he had adopted the proper smile of an Archduke candidate did he approach and kneel before me. Suffice to say, the look did not reach his eyes. Of course it didn't. Yeah, he hates being chastised on this. My heart ached. Had I failed to convey my desires to prevent further conflict between our duchies? Worse yet, was Lord Wolfried still unaware of the threat his words and actions posed to Ehrenfest, despite Professor Eglantine's belabored explanation? He needs a freaking explanation from Ferdinand is what he needs. That guy needs to get on him. I apologize for my rudeness toward an Archduke candidate of Dunkelfelder II. Given your compassion, which mirrors that of Gadul, I truly hope you can forgive me. Yeah, right. I was speechless. Accepting such an insincere template of an apology would only deepen the rift between us. I wanted nothing more than to sprint out of the classroom. But as an Archduke candidate of Dunkelfelder, there was only one thing I could do. You are forgiven, I said. May we remain close friends long into the future. I had spoken sincerely, but Lord Wolfried must have thought otherwise. He assured me that my kindness was wasted on him, his expression one of feigned appreciation. Even as Professor Eglantine advised on how to move forward, he refused to acknowledge me further. Of course, he's not listened. He didn't listen. He didn't take into what she said to consider. Someone needs to smack some sense into this kid. Rosemine, Ferdinand, y'all need to both smack him with that Harrison. You need to do better. As I said that, I was acting like I was smacking him with the fan. Oh my god, this guy. Girl, what did you build up in your head? He is not like what you wanted. The damage done to our relationship was irreparable. Of course. You need to go on back, girl. There's no need for you to stay. You may depart, Lady Hannelore, Professor Eglantine announced at last. There is more I must discuss with Lord Wolfried. Good! Smack him! Smack some sense into him, please! I nodded and departed the classroom. There was doubtless plenty to be said about the upcoming dedication ritual. My retainers and those serving Lord Wolfried were in the waiting room, wearing their blue and ochre capes respectfully. Mine approached me at once and surrounded me as if determined to protect me from Ehrenfest. Lady Hannelore, what happened between you and Lord Wolfried? I don't want to talk about it! Actually, she can't even say that. Excuse me. For 2 consecutive days, we had come out of class later than the other students. I could not blame my retainers for the sharp looks of their eyes. I repeated the excuse that our professor had given us. Professor Egglantine had several questions concerning the dedication ritual. We released joint research with Ehrenfest about religious ceremonies, so my input was deemed necessary as well. I explained as much as I could, but there is yet more she hopes to learn from Lord Wolfried. Ask her yourselves if you doubt me. So I said, but not one of my retainers was equipped to interrogate a member of the royal family. At most, they could ask our dormitory supervisor to inquire for them, and there was not a doubt in my mind that Professor Eglantine would corroborate my claim. Suppressing my despair at having lost even my friendship with Lord Wolfried, I forced a smile befitting my status and made my way back to the Dunkelfelder dormitory. No sooner had I returned to my room than the cracks in my composure began to show, culminating in an exhausted sigh. Cordial instantly met the eyes of my attendants who were helping me change. You seem rather depressed, Lady Hannelore, she said. Was that dedication ritual truly the topic of your conversation with Professor Eglantine? Her tone was interrogative, but she regarded me with genuine concern. Indeed, it was, I muttered, my eyes downcast. Announcing the truth was out of the question. And yet, she exuded such an overwhelming sense of joy. And that soured your mood? I cannot quite find the words. In a sense, I suppose her beaming smile and cheerful demeanor made me envious. Envious? Andrea repeated. Do you also aspire to marry into royal... No! Envious! As in envious at how happy she is. She wants that happiness. You could say that she wants that happiness too. Her question felt almost surreal, knowing that Professor Eglantine was destined to become the Zent, and the royal family as we knew it would soon cease to exist. Oh no, back when I was a first year, Professor Eglantine had 2 princes as her suitors. As the rumors went, her choice would decide the country's next ruler, so she knew not who to lean toward. Professor Eglantine had not made up her mind until she was in her final year at the Royal Academy, and even then she had put emotion above the throne by choosing Lord Anastasius, who had given up on becoming the Zent in an act of true love and devotion. Some speculated that Lady Rosemont had served as their go-between, but as we had not been close at the time, I was unsure how great a hand she had actually had in the matter. She was their go-between. She smacked some sense into Anastasius. Not literally, but yeah, I told him he needed to man up and go confess to his lady. I wonder what separates those who end up happier for acting on love and those who do not, I asked. Rather than choosing the country's next king and taking her place at his side as everyone had expected, Professor Eglantine had opted to put her heart first and ended up all the better for it. I too had tried to prioritize love, only to be told that my confession had come up an entire year too late. Yet when I traveled to the past to remedy my mistake, I was rejected with such intensity that it cost me the entire friendship. Like I said, you had gone too early in the past. If you had gone a bit later into the year, then maybe that would have turned out better. The harder I tried, the worse things seemed to become. You approach everything with half measures, milady. If you truly wish to marry Lord Wolfried, then you should not have stepped down to avoid inconveniencing Ehrenfest. It would have served you better to pursue him with the resolve to inspire a revolution in your wake. Or, if you felt nothing for him as you claimed, then you should simply have brought Ehrenfest to their knees and demanded that they apologize for having shamed you. I would not have hesitated to assist you in either case. Are those choices not too extreme, I asked, misery seeping into my affected smile. Cordial's stern gaze appeared to relax, and she looked upon me with tender eyes. I saw how much you endured, stomaching Ehrenfest's self-centered terms, while suppressing how you felt about Lord Wolfried. In truth, I think an extreme choice was exactly what you needed. I scanned the room. The attendants changing my clothes wore looks betraying both frustration and respect for me. I am aware that my choices have burdened all of you as much as they have burdened me, I said. For that, I truly do apologize. Because of my actions, the situation back home was far from ideal. My retainers exchanged glances, then wry smiles. If you are concerned about us, then be more sincere, more resolute, and more discerning in your choice of men, my head attendant said. Cordial is correct, Andrea added. Otherwise, our struggles will only continue to mount. Any remaining tension faded as my attendants giggled among themselves. Although some awkwardness lingered, it felt as though we were speaking frankly for the first time in quite a while. But I am discerning in my choices, I protested. Lord Wilfrid would cherish me, and yes, he came to your aid in the midst of your dinner match. How considerate he must be. Cordial took the initiative, repeating the excuses I had given so many times before. My other attendants followed suit, noting how Lord Wilfrid had always seen me off when Lady Rosemine collapsed during one of our tea parties. The ease with which they recounted my words left me deeply embarrassed. I must have raved about him a lot more frequently than I assumed. No wonder Kentrips and the others were so quick to draw their conclusions. You seem strangely tolerant today, Cordial remarked. Under normal circumstances, being as stubborn as you are, you would have start making excuses for Lord Wilfrid as the mere mention of his duchy. At once I was struck with the urge to cradle my head. Everyone had always been so quick to speak ill of him that indeed I must have been a little too defensive. I am aware of the love that has taken root within you, and of his kind gestures during the dinner match that started it all, my head attendant said. Still, I do not think that he would cherish you whatsoever, milady. Now that she knows all this, she probably would agree. Or at least I would, anyway. But yeah, Wilfrid needs to freaking grow up. In the past, I would have objected without a second thought, and my retainers would have dismissed me with nods and shrugs. Going through the same routine time and time again had chipped away at my motivation and convinced me that no one from Knucklefucker would ever understand how I feel. But what if my retainers thought the same of me as I stubbornly refused to acknowledge their concerns? 2 years had passed since our bride's sealing dinner match, and only now had such an obvious truth become clear to me. You always say that, and that he lacks honesty. Why? Cordial and the others stared at me in shock, then at each other. The terms of your match were overturned, as Lord Lestalot mistakenly chose the wrong kind of paper for an interdutchy agreement, my head attendant explained. However, that was merely a technicality. It does not change the fact that Lord Wilfrid read the contract, confirmed the particulars with your brother, and ultimately signed it. He declared that he would lead Ehrenfest into dinner, not Lady Rosemine or Ob Ehrenfest. A quiet escaped me. I had always insisted that Lestalot was to blame for the dinner match, and that my involvement had only come about as a desperate attempt to dissuade him. Had your hand in marriage not appealed to him, Lord Wilfrid would have refused to sign the contract until the terms were changed, no matter what Lady Rosemine said. That he signed the agreement means he was duty-bound to wed you. As things stand, it seems that he never intended to respect the contract, and that he planned to draw attention to Lord Lestalot's mistake whether Ehrenfest won or lost. He might be kind, but his actions paint him as two-faced or completely ignorant of the weight of a future Ob signature. Yeah, it was already a good idea that Wilfrid was not to be the Ob in the first place, but now this kind of really confirms it. That, he is not fit to be Ob because he does not know how badly his actions and words could affect things. The day's events had sapped me of any desire to protest. Not long ago, I had seen just how shallow Lord Wilfrid could be. Not to mention, given the sanctity of dinner to the people of Dunkelfelder, it is no wonder that my attempts to defend him earned me such ire. The more I thought about it, the more I wanted to put my head in my hands. I could hardly believe how foolish I had been. Most of all, Cordial added, Lord Wilfrid took part in that dinner match to protect Lady Rosemine, not to secure your hand. What reason do I have to believe he would cherish you, or treasure you? Small acts of kindness, such as comforting me after tea parties and socializing in Lady Rosemine's place when she was absent, had led me to believe that Lord Wilfrid would cherish me at Ehrenfest. Upon further consideration, however, I realized that none of his actions had been motivated by love for me. He had merely been covering for his fiancée. In fact, it was Lady Rosemine who promised to ensure my happiness if I married into Ehrenfest. Oh boy, it took going into the past for her to see this information. Well, at least she now is informed, and maybe she'll go with Ortwin. Because, like you said, Wilfrid is not fit to be the Ob and is not good for Hannelore. For the first time, I could see things as they truly were. What had once seemed so clear now struck me as little more than wishful thinking. I was still coming to terms with my mistake when a newfound intensity entered Cordiala's eyes. And if we consider everything together... She paused, watching me closely to gauge whether she should continue. My other attendants uttered not a word, but the severity of their expressions told me I was being asked something of grave importance. A question that would determine whether the foundations my battle rested upon were stable. I straightened my back, bracing for the worst, and gave a curt nod to insist that she speak. I do not think there is anything in Ehrenfest worth the rigors you have faced. I swallowed, and my mind raced with thoughts of what was to come, the game of true dinner, the celebratory feast, the coronation of a new Zet, and Lady Rosebud's inauguration as an Ob. Despite my wishful thinking and passivity, I had protected Ehrenfest and secured a future I could be proud of. Nothing would make me give that up. Cordiala, everyone, nothing matters more to me than staying friends with Lord Wilfred and Lady Rosemine, than being able to laugh and speak with them as usual. I understand now that I was being short-sighted and that my way of thinking was more wishful than realistic. Even so, I cannot give up on that which is dear to me. I took pride in not having burdened my friends with knowledge of my hardships at home, and now that my relationship with Lord Wilfred was in tatters, I wanted nothing more than to repair it. If such a thing was possible, I would ask that you not belittle the friendships and experiences I consider more precious than anything. Very well, Cordiala said. As your retainers, we hereby swear to protect what is important to you. And with that, the chasm that had separated my retinue and me since our dinner match with Ehrenfest, or rather since my stubborn defense of Lord Wilfred, had finally been closed. Rather than try to force an engagement, I wished to cherish my friendships and the good times we had spent together. Only now was that clear to me. Returning to my 4th year had caused me all manner of problems, but it had taught me something valuable as well. I needed to communicate with my retainers, not simply turn my back on them. Truthfully, I wish I could go back to the present. I wish to return to my original timeline, when, for all my trials and tribulations, my bond with Ehrenfest was as strong as ever. I would apologize to Lord Wilfred for how I proposed to him, then face Cordiala and the others again to repair my relationship with them. Hold on, is this... Surely this is going to, This is going to affect the future, right? Because then what would be the point if you had gone back in the first place and then nothing changed in the future because it didn't matter? So surely this is going to have some kind of effect on the future. As I racked my brain for what to do, I suddenly recalled the guise of Timon's warning. I was forbidden from presenting my knowledge of the future to those who had yet to experience it. The moment I came under suspicion, Dragana would retrieve me and erase the memories of all those I interacted with. In short, by breaking the taboo, I can undo my mistakes here. Oh, so she could fix things between her and Lord Wilfred by telling everybody what happens. Oh, okay. But is that going to be a good thing, though? Oh, boy. Hopefully, oh, dear. I feared the impact my early confession might have on the present when I returned there with Lady Rosemine. Based on his reaction and response, I could see just how much Lord Wilfred had matured over the course of his 4th year. The truth is, Cordiala, before I could say another word, my knight Hylas burst into the room. A moment of your time, milady, she asked. One of the men nobles has a petition for you. Huh? I put my thoughts of returning to the present aside and gestured for her to continue. She knelt before me and wasted no time in giving her report. It seems the archnobles have completely stripped the gathering spot of herbs, despite the other students' need to brew rejuvenation potions for the dedication ritual. Of course! Frickin' archnobles, why y'all gotta do that? Seriously, you know that the others need stuff too. If you're gonna do that, at least fix it to where they can still get their stuff. Seriously. It had been Fire Day when I first returned to my 4th year, and cantrips had given me a list of Ned noble names upon seeing me. It's such a reason, then, that the archnobles had performed their dedication ritual the previous Earth Day. They had all been required to participate, which meant they needed rejuvenation potions, specifically the ingredients to brew them. I searched my memories and recalled that, indeed, I had needed to restore the gathering spot before. I remember it being an arduous, exhausting task, as the knights who thought ill of me were reluctant to help. Loath though I was to go through it all again, the men nobles and the lay nobles' dedication ritual were right around the corner. I had no choice but to replenish the gathering spot, and we needed all the assistance we could get to minimize the burden. In my 4th year, those of the grades above had tended to go overboard when harvesting ingredients. It was only in my 5th year that I had mobilized all of our students to restore the gathering spot together. Ideally, we should get everyone to take part in the replenishment, I said. Could we do it tomorrow morning after training? If everyone cooperates, then yes, Hyles muttered with some reservation, but that would mean using up mana before class. We should expect many to speak out in protest. My retainers all wore uncertain expressions. Their concerns made perfect sense. At this point in time, before my role in True Dinner, I doubted the knights would obey me. Freaking nose getting stopped up, making it hard to read. They had followed my brother's orders without question, so it had wounded me to see them so reluctant. How did we resolve this before? As I recall, we had Rosentark to thank. In the blink of an eye, his booming voice had whipped the entire dormitory into shape. It had depressed me at the time as I saw it. I was so worthless that even one of my brother's arsenal retainers commanded greater authority. Only now could I appreciate how much cantrips and Rosentark had done for me when my reputation was so painfully lacking. To think I was so blind. Upon my return to the present, I would need to express my sincerest thanks to both suitors, but of course restoring the gathering spot came first. My knowledge of the future told me I needed a way to get the knights to listen to me. True Dinner convinced them all before. Perhaps playing dinner in the dormitory will change their tune. I waited until dinner that evening to make my announcement. After tomorrow morning's training, all students in their third year and above will work together to replenish the gathering spot. Just as Hyles had predicted, my words were met with plenty of resistance. Few wanted to expand their mana so soon before class. If you consider that too much, then we shall do it tonight, I said. The men nobles need time to brew as well. Tonight, one of the gathered nobles asked, immediately after dinner? You get free time after meals, do you not? We need only restore the gathering spot enough for the blade nobles and men nobles to collect the resources they need. As in my memories, the knights were slow to react. The attendants and scholars followed their example and stayed quiet. They would need the knights to protect them from Phoebes while they healed the gathering spot, which prevented them from acting alone. I pursed my lips. Cantrips grimaced and Rosentark turned to me with a frown. Before, I had thought they were scorning me for my uselessness as an Archduke candidate, but now I understood that they were simply concerned. Enough, everyone. This is an order from Lady Hannelore, Rosentark declared, coming to my aid as he had done before. We shall assist her once we've eaten. Assist her, one knight repeated. How do we know she won't betray us next? What? What would she do to betray you? We apprentice knights have suffered enough at her hands, another retorted. Their shouts and jeers made me want to avert my eyes, but then I remembered what Professor Eglantine had said to me. Just as the duchy rankings had given me power over Lord Wolfried, status gave me authority over the others in the dormitory. Although I was responsible for this conflict, I still had every right to scold those who were acting out of turn. My silent acceptance only enabled and encouraged the knights before. Permitting the knights to refuse orders and scorn an Archduke candidate risked undermining the chain of command during serious operations. As my experience with True Dinner had made clear, trouble could come entirely out of the blue, leaving those involved with barely any time to prepare. I needed to make my stance clear and scold them for their insolence. I took a deep breath and let mana course through my body. Then I held my head high and gazed down at the unruly students with savage intensity. Your personal grievances with me are no excuse to refuse the orders of an Archduke candidate. Was that much not clear? We shall heal the gathering spot together, for the entire dormitory will pay the price otherwise. The last apprentice knight to complain merely stared at me with his mouth agape. He took a moment to regain his composure, then attempted to speak out again. Lons, I interrupted, slamming the butt of my newly formed spear against the floor with all my might. All students in their third year and above shall gather fully armed. For as long as I am an Archduke candidate, you will obey my orders, no matter how you might feel about me personally. Understood. The gathered students scattered like baby spiders. Good job, Hannelore! Soon enough, Lestalot's and my stunned retainers were the only ones who remained with me in the dining hall. Lady Hannelore. We must prepare as well, I declared. The gathering spot needs to be restored. Rosentark, I thank you ever so much for moving to protect me. This time I properly thanked my future suitor before returning to my chambers. There I changed into full armor and asked Cordial to prepare the relevant magic tools for hunting Phoebes. Do you truly need this many, she asked. I do. Restoring an almost barren gathering spot will prompt an assault from all manner of mana-hungry Phoebes. Last time the Phoebes had put us through our paces, for we had not anticipated an attack on such a large scale. Cantrips had advised me to guide the students to the safety of the dorm, of course, so I could only base my evaluation on the worn-down appearance of the returning knights. I do not remember the Ob, our knight commander, mentioning anything of the sort when they replenished the gathering spot after the Archduke conference, Cordial said. No, I suppose not. Back then, the duchies all restored their gathering spots simultaneously dividing the Phoebes' attention in the process. And as their combined work supplied the Royal Academy with an abundance of mana, We can assume there are more Fey beasts here now than there were in spring. My retainers eyed me with suspicion, so I met their looks with a smile. The dormitory supervisor of the present had gathered what intelligence they could and compared the Fey beasts around the academy to those from before the Civil War. In the end, they had concluded that there were indeed more. Not that anyone at this point in time could know that. Lady Rosemine warned me, I added. She knows more about regenerating the gathering spots than anyone. On that note, everyone conceded. Lady Rosemine had reintroduced the prayer in the first place, so nobody had reason to doubt her. As I recall, it was hellwolves that had attacked us. Hellwolves were red-furred Fey beasts that resembled dogs, though with small horns protruding from their foreheads. Even a lay knight stood a decent chance of slaying one on its own. But the beasts moved in packs and struck in formation. They were known to target the unprepared, so a single magic tool designed to deal damage across a large area would make them dramatically easier to defeat. Perhaps this will aid us, I said, taking the magic tool that cantrips had given me for bride-stealing dinner. The thought of using it against people had scared me too much to bring its might to bear, but against Fey beasts, I would show no mercy. Hyles, once the gathering spot has been healed, lead everyone back to the dormitory without letting down your guard. Cordula, hold the fort until we return. My head attendant looked at me, her eyes narrowed, then crossed her arms over her chest and knelt. May Ungriff guide you. We exited the dormitory into a vast, snowy landscape. The sky hung still, much to our relief. Although our armor could shield us from the cold, a blizzard would have put us at a serious disadvantage. The lack of obstructions would also make it easier to spot the hellwolf's red fur when they approached. I raised my right hand, a signal to my armed peers, then continued toward the gathering spot by High Beast. It was not long before a pale column of light broke the expanse of white before us. Our destination would normally have been awash with green, leafy trees and grass abounding, but the archnobles had picked it clean. Now it appeared no more vibrant than a barren wasteland. My knights shall watch for Fey beasts, I explained, the first of my instructions. Rosentark and the rest of my brother's knights shall slay any that appear, while the rest of us will pray and supply the gathering spot. The apprentice knights looked at me as if about to speak, but only silence followed. I did them the kindness of pretending not to have noticed. Arrange yourselves in a circle around the gathering spot to ease the burden upon you all. I am told archnobles should stay far apart, whereas lay nobles should stick closer together. I said, repeating what Father and the others had shared in the process they were taught. Now let us pray. I put my hands on the ground and gently started channeling mana into it. Green light spread through the earth, forming the contours of a magic circle. It was a divine, fantastical sight, but I could not let it distract me. A chill ran through me as mana continued to leave my body. Once the circle was full, I chanted the prayer I had memorized. O goddess of water-flute train, bringer of healing and change, grant me the power to heal thy sister, the goddess of earth Geduld, who has been wounded by those who serve evil. I shall offer this divine note to thee, casting ripples of the highest order. May thou fill the world with thy divine color to match mine own heart's content. The green magic circle rose into the air and grass and trees began to grow. That will do, I called. Under normal circumstances, we would have waited for the circle to reach the very top of the gathering spot, but for our purposes, stopping at roughly 8/10 completion would suffice. This should provide enough resources for everyone's rejuvenation potions. Using too much mana here will impact tomorrow's classes. Not to mention, we needed to be ready for the Fey beasts that were about to attack. I downed one of my rejuvenation potions, then interpreted the students' gathering ingredients and instructed them to return to the dormitory. But we've barely even started. If you can wait until tomorrow's training, mana-starved Fey beasts are bound to swarm us at any moment now. Everyone except my retainers regarded me with suspicion. There was no time to hesitate. I would need to ease their doubts post-haste. I was told as much by Lady Rosamund, whose experience with this prayer is unmatched, I explained. Let us hurry. My knights shall guide you. In that case, Rosentark took a deep breath. Everyone, follow Lady Hannelore to the dormitory. We knights shall protect the gathering spot. Weapon firmly in hand, he sharpened his focus on our surroundings. First my brother's knights, then the apprentice arch-knights took up arms as well. I remember just how exhausted they had looked upon their return and promptly shook my head. No, everyone but I shall return to the dormitory. Lady Hannelore, what are you saying? One knight sputtered. Forgive me, but this task is much better suited to us than to your guards, said another. Unless you all withdraw, I cannot use the magic tool that cantrips made, I barked, thwarting their protest and protesting the tooling presenting the tool in question. Depart at once. Rosentark gawked, then nodded, fully aware of the might of Kentrip's work. Kentrip himself stared at the tool with wide eyes, his expression betraying disbelief. Lady Hannelore, he managed, why are you? This tool is much too powerful to be used against people. But against Fey beasts, I need not exercise restraint. I see, so that was how you saw it. The frown souring his features gave way to a resigned sigh. Cantrips, escort everyone back to the dormitory at once, I said. I shall protect them. Such is my duty as an Archduke candidate. Although I do not doubt your conviction, we cannot say for certain whether Fey Beasts are truly coming. We shall entrust Hyley's party with escorting the students while you take up the rear guard, Lady Hannelore. There, we shall protect you. Despite his suspicion, Cantrips had wasted no time in focusing on the matter at hand. Even if we do encounter Fey Beasts, as Lady Rosemine cautioned, we still do not know their species or strength, he continued. Should any survive the magic tool, acting alone will put you in grave danger. Rosentrek and the others shall wait outside its reach. I know better than anyone how far its devastation will extend. Cantrips began instructing Rosentrek and the others, using his knowledge of the magic tool to his advantage. He was still hard at work when Ordinons arrived. Lady Hannelore, this is Hyley, the little bird announced. A massive pack of hell wolves is approaching fast. They're racing straight toward you. A sudden seriousness gripped everyone still present. They're actually coming? Take your distance, Lady Hannelore. Need space to use the tool. We shall signal with the gelb once everyone is out of range. The red light of a rot warned of danger and requested aid, whereas the yellow light of a gelb announced that the preparations for battle were complete. I rode toward the hell wolves as Cantrips led the others to safety. If not for my drivable high beast, which protected me from attacks unable to rival my mana, I would not have been able to enact this plan in the first place. Oh, this is getting good. I used the might of my mana to accelerate to blinding speeds, boring a path straight through the hell wolves as I went. Countless blue eyes burned with anger as their kid leaped at me, having branded me a foe. They snarled and chomped at my high beast, but there was nothing they could do to breach its defenses. I gazed upon their bared fangs as I started supplying my magic tool of mana, ready to throw it at a moment's notice. A burst of yellow struck one of the hell wolves in front of me, a signal from Cantrips. As the beast pawed cautiously at the light, I threw the mana charge tool out of the window of my high beast. Detanus, I shouted. Two magic circles spread out from the tool, a yellow one designed to protect its user, and a blue one meant to deal damage. Barely a moment later, a bone-rattling explosion rang out. The hell wolves erupted in high-pitched shrieks, then fell silent as their face stones dropped to the ground. Those that were outside of the range of the blast immediately turned tail and ran. Smart. Lady Hannelore! Cantrips and Rosentrek rushed over on their high beasts along with the other knights who had been waiting outside the blast zone. Rosentrek was the first to reach me. Are you hurt? He asked. Oh my, did you not believe in Cantrip's magic tool, Rosentrek? Even though through his full plate armor, I could tell that he was nervous. His concern struck me as both amusing and endearing. Seeing that massive pack of hell wolves gnawing at your high beast would make anyone anxious. A chuckle escaped me. I am sorry to have worried you. However, thanks to my drivable high beast, I am entirely unharmed. Hearing the tremor in Rosentrek's voice told me how the spectacle must have looked. Any knight duty-bound to protect an Archduke candidate would have watched with their heart in their throat. My sympathies to you all, but I am glad that Hyley and the others were not here to witness what happened, I said. I fear they would have charged within range of the magic tool. Rosentrek tried, Cantrips noted, shooting him a glare. Stopping him was a nightmare. The other knights nodded, thankful to have succeeded. Cantrips, it was thanks to your magic tool that we managed to slay the hell wolves without sustaining any injuries. I said, excellent work. He met my words with a look of uncertainty, hardly the reaction I had expected from a man who had just been praised. As he kept his gaze on me, his gray eyes narrowed in suspicion. Uh-oh. Uh-oh! He's getting suspicious, guys! Are you truly Lady Hannelore? Not this again! Excuse me? I sputtered on instinct. What are you implying, Cantrips? Rosentrek asked. Who else would she be? She appears to be Lady Hannelore, and some aspects of her demeanor speak to the person I remember, but she seems fundamentally changed. It's as if, yes, as if she's older and more mature. Ah, shit! Well, you got snatched. Bye-bye! Before I could even consider my response, my body lurched as if someone had suddenly snatched me. Yep, she saw it was getting close to being caught, so she grabbed you and got you out. Does she wipe their memory, though? I can't remember if that ends up being the case. She does if you end up revealing the truth, but does she if someone starts to get suspicious? I don't know. Maybe we'll find out. My head spun and the world around me faded to white. The next thing I knew, I was lying on the floor and the goddesses were gazing down at me with tense expressions. Okay, let's see. How much more do I need to do? Oh, good lord, I'm already... That took an hour and 25 minutes! Dang! Okay, this is gonna have to wait then. So the next one's gonna probably be the last one. Hope you guys enjoyed that, and I'll see you on the next one.